Welcome, everyone, to the DeKalb Chamber of Commerce, our Fireside chat with Dr. Tavarez Holston from Georgia Piedmont Technical College. It is great to have him here to talk about some of the great things that are going on with Georgia Piedmont Technical College, what they're doing and moving forward with workforce development, economic development, some of the nice projects that they have on, and how they're helping to stand up DeKalb County. Dr. Tavarez Holston, thank you for being here with us this afternoon, providing us some time to have a fireside chat.
Absolutely. It is my great pleasure to talk about the great work that's going on around the county and the region, and how the college has an opportunity to partner in those efforts. And what we're doing together as a county, it is so powerful. It makes such a difference. And so I believe one of the strongest things that we can do is be together in our efforts and making sure that our strategies are aligning, that our efforts are aligning, and that people are having opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise.
Great, excellent. And I want to tell our audience this afternoon, you're going to feel a lot of energy in this discussion. There's a lot that's going on with Georgia Piedmont Technical College. There's a lot going on with the DeKalb Chamber of Commerce, but you're going to see that synergy, that connection that we have. And we're going to talk about some things to help our audience see where we're going in collaboration and moving things forward here in DeKalb County. So don't want to hold things up, want to get started. And so my first question to you, Dr. Holston, is how are things currently going at Georgia Piedmont Technical College?
I'm so glad you asked. Things are going up. There are amazing things happening every single day here at the college. I'm finishing up what is my fourth year here at the college as the president. And I can tell you our faculty and staff here, they love what they do. They're passionate about what they do. We really focus in on our values of learning and service and leadership. And you hear us talk a lot about creating unforgettable learning experiences. We want every learner that comes through our door to feel like what they've gained is valuable, that it's impactful on their lives, and for people to give us the opportunity to influence the way they see the world, and go about completing the work that needs to be done in our communities. That is in itself amazing. So I've had the opportunity of being here at the college for 4 years. Came in at a time when things were needed to be moving forward in a more powerful way. And I can tell you that our folks have really rallied around our mission of workforce development. What that means for us is we want to make sure that our businesses and industries have the exact skills that they need to be successful so they can make money. And we want to make sure that our students have opportunities as well to have skills and participate and have access to all the opportunities that are in this region. So things are amazing. Things are great. Frankie, I believe that in these times that we live in now, I believe that technical education is really starting to move to the forefront of this workforce development discussion. It seems to be more relevant than ever. Well, I can't think of a single employer that I've spoken to recently who said that I'm not looking to hire someone. And so that's good news if you have the skills to access those opportunities. Our job placement rate is 95%. So what that means is any student that comes through our doors and completes with us, they're going to be employed. And so that speaks volumes about the work that's been going on. And our students who leave us, they're leaving with almost no debt. So there's all kinds of great opportunities. When you hear about the conversations about the cost of college, the cost of tuition, that's not a real challenge for a lot of our students because the majority of our students, they're in programs that are already financed through the state, that are through the Hope Career Grant and scholarships. We have a great foundation to support. And so most of our students come out with little to no debt. And that is, to me, that is powerful.
Now, interesting enough, you brought out a good point. And I know with a lot of parents, when parents really think about financing, college and how important it is for kids and young folks, and even some of our adults, how important it is to advance their education. You mentioned that you have a 95% placement rate. Incredible. Elaborate more on that.
What that means is let me give you an example. I love to talk about stories and our students. For instance, a recent story that comes to mind is I was walking down the hallway in our building here in Clarkston, and one of our welding instructors, he tapped me on the shoulder. He said, "Dr. Holston, we just had an employer who just walked through the hallways and said, every student that you can provide me right now, I will hire them at a rate of $71,000 per year." And so what I'm saying is, our students have opportunities. If you have skills, you can be competitive, you can provide for your families. And so that 95% job placement rate of most of our students who are learning right now are already have a job, or they have a job lined up before they graduate. And so what that tells me, Frankie, is of course, there's this huge workforce need. We need to make sure that we give people more access to what we offer. And we invite the community, adults, and those who are in high school want to do a dual enrollment opportunity. We invite all of those folks to come and get skilled, because the opportunities are there and the types of salaries are mind-boggling, especially in this economy.
Yeah, I think many of those in our audience right now, and I think many individuals in the region may not notice that. They may not capture the power of that, the opportunity where they could be employed, make a salary, where that you can take care of a family. We're looking at interest rates and things like that are impacting families, that are impacting small businesses. But when we start talking about finance and when it comes to school, you mentioned something that I think that's important for our audience: financing education. What is in financing education for Georgia Piedmont Technical College when you have individuals and students and businesses are saying, hey, you need to advance your education, go to Georgia Piedmont Technical College, and you get a response, well, I can't afford it. It's too expensive. How is the state helping with that?
Oh, wow. The state has been so wonderful in supporting citizens pursuing their higher education. And one of the things that I think is so important, and I'll really unpack this financial question you're asking, but I think the thing that's most important is, what is my return on investment? So if I'm going to invest or go to school at, say, Georgia Piedmont Technical College, I want to make sure that what I'm putting in is going to give me more on the back end. So getting a good return on investment. I believe as we look at, a lot of our students get Pell Grant. There's federal funds that are available for that. So that's obviously a national and federal priority to make sure that students who may have low income levels, who have challenges coming up with funds for that. There's funding from the federal level. There's funding from the state level through the Hope Scholarship and Hope Career Grant. The thing that I really want to emphasize right now in this economy, and I've kind of alluded to this, Frankie, is this idea that there's what are called strategic industries. And so the governor has identified these strategic industries, and there's funding that pays for 100% of tuition for these folks who come through these high demand careers, assuming they don't already have a 4-year degree. But if that is the case, we're talking about people coming in, and usually the difference is usually a couple of $100 between the gap that's there. And so we have a foundation that helps with that. We have great public and private partners who are also coming alongside of our students, helping them finance their academic journey and investing in their careers. For instance, I'll give you one right off the top. I was thinking about a couple of weeks ago, we had what we call a Grateful Gathering, where we celebrate all the great things happening at the college. And we had a lot of our public and private partners at that event. And specifically, I remember Stonecrest, the city of Stonecrest, actually provided about $500,000 worth of funds to support what is our regional transportation center over in Stonecrest. So these folks will have access to CDL careers, which again, we're talking mid 70,000, 80,000 and higher after 8 weeks of training. So the city of Stonecrest is a partner in developing our regional transportation center. We also had Amazon who contributed because they say we really need to address this supply chain shortage with logistics and transportation. We also had the county provided about $150,000 to support students with laptops and for childcare and for transportation. And so when you take all of this in consideration, the opportunity for our adult learners, for our younger learners, the opportunities are there and at a cost, again, that is very affordable. If you were, Frankie, today, if you were enrolled in an associate's degree today, your total cost is about $7,700 total for an associate's degree that gets you in a high-paying career.
That's incredible. Now, I was thinking about that when you mentioned $80,000 a year starting salary. Now, I know a lot. I have some young adults myself. I mean, they're in college, some that are trying to seek some type of career. But I don't think any of our young adults in DeKalb County or in this region are thinking like that. They're thinking, in some, when they're going to four-year university, four-year college, we're going to get out and possibly make an entry-level salary. But here, 8 weeks of training. You talk about the value of the investment. 8 weeks of training. You walk out the door, entry-level position, $80,000 a year. Wow. Now, I don't know if many of them know about this. And here's the power of that, even going forward. The value of that investment by the employer. The employer limited investment, sending one of their staff persons to Georgia Piedmont Technical College, gaining an education. Now, they're going to have to pay them more when they come out. I mean, the competition is going to be a little stiff. But they have someone that's trained enough where that their value of that employee is at $80,000. Now, I want to elaborate on that further. The value of the investment of the employer. What do they have to look for with that?
Here's what there's multiple avenues for this. But all right, so you brought up a lot of stuff, and you threw a softball up there, Frankie, and that gets me excited. But for the employer, what we're basically saying is send your workforce to us, and we will train them at basically no cost to you. So there's multiple ways to go about that. One of the big buzzwords right now, we've been doing this for years in technical education, is apprenticeships. So what that means is a student can be going to work at an employer, be clocking hours, contributing to the workforce, and then they come at a different time to class. And the skills that they're learning in their program can be directly applied to the job. And so it's almost like it's this co-curricular opportunity for those students. So for that employed workforce, those who are currently working, there's ways we can kind of help them. You talked about the parent. If you are a parent, let me say this. If you are a parent and you have a child in your basement or a child living in your house, I plead to you. If they're trying to figure out what they want to do and they have a clean driving record, here's another example. Right. Give us 8 weeks of your life, and we will put you on the road in a truck. You can drive around the country and figure it out, making $80,000 a year. I think that's a good way to get kids out of your basement. I have three grown ones myself. So, that's just one example. But when you think about the return on investment for the employer, what better way to train your workforce and let somebody else do it, and let the state pay for it, or let others, partners in the community, pay for it. That's what we're saying. That's how important and how critical a technical trained workforce is today. That's always been the case, but we're seeing that across the landscape, whether you talk about allied health or transportation and logistics, advanced manufacturing, all these folks, all these businesses have great opportunities there.
This is an incredible audience. I mean, speaking to our audience, I'm the energy's here too with me. I mean, this is not a recorded session where people are. This is you and I having a fireside chat. Mm-hmm. And really, I think our audience is having the opportunity to hear from you the impact of Georgia Piedmont Technical College. Now, you and I were talking about something else prior to this. We were talking about the importance of recognizing technical colleges. Mm-hmm. Things have changed in the past 20 years. I know when you and I were younger and in school, there were different acronyms, there were different ways in which individuals spoke and businesses talked about technical colleges. Elaborate on the change, where we're at now in the 21st century, mm-hmm. and how that looks now.
Okay, wow. How things have changed for technical education in Georgia specifically. I will first say that we are a technical college, and we do offer trades like electrical, construction. We do, we have those trades, cosmetology that are mainly that most people still think of us. But we're also we're a college and we're emerging. So as technology emerges, so does the college and the programs that we offer. For instance, here's another example. I love examples. Right now, we're working with a partner, Georgia Tech, in developing a semiconductor and nanotechnology program. We know that semiconductor and microchip production that has been called a national security crisis. And so there's pressure from the national level, from the state level. We all want to be independent of China and some of our other foreign partners. So bringing that focus on producing microchips. Georgia Tech already has such a great experience in that area. But here's the thing that's happening. When you think about microchip manufacturing, there's an R&D component. That's what Georgia Tech excels at. But what's really missing is these technicians who can keep the robots running, who can go into a clean room, who can understand the process of what it takes to make the actual chip itself. And so we're partnering with Georgia Tech. We're a part of what's called the Georgia AIM coalition, along with Georgia Tech and Spelman and some private partners. And we're trying to make an impact for that workforce. And again, and speaking with our private partner, the starting salary for a technician, once they complete this program, which will be offered starting this upcoming fall, the starting salary after 2 years of education, entry level, $82,000 a year. And that's average. That's average. So it can get up to 6 figures coming out of that industry. So you talk about what that means for raising the quality of life for our citizens, for the impact that has on families. The thing I often talk about that brings me the most sense of pride that we've accomplished our mission of workforce development. These folks have W-2s. They're contributing to our tax base. Our roads are paid for. Our schools are financed. So when you get people or a community that is fully employed, it has tremendous economic impact across the region.
Entry level.
So
it's 2 entry-level careers that start out in excess of $80,000 a year. We have a lot of young adults that are out. My young adults, I can tell you what they told me. Came here for the summer, and I mentioned to them, $20 an hour is a good starting salary. $19 an hour is, when I was young, $12 an hour was a good starting salary. I mean, we were doing well. They looked at me in the face and said, "Dad, you can't do that." And they have no experience. So I'm thinking to myself, well, has the world changed? Have I been working so much that I've kind of lost sight of where things are going? But really, you're talking about 2 different industries that are with trained staff, with students coming out or individuals that are trained. They're being paid in excess of what some would consider a living wage. I mean, at some points, you can look at these individuals being independent, getting out of our basements,
absolutely,
buying their own homes, and doing some things. I mean, really, this takes Georgia Piedmont Technical College to the next level.
It does. And when I speak to a lot of our young people, things that I often hear is, I want to be a social media influencer, or I want to be a professional athlete. I want to throw a ball or shoot a ball. Those are great if you have that talent level. But what I can tell you is, I'll give you an example of someone who graduated from Georgia Piedmont, played for the Buffalo Bills, played for the Atlanta Falcons at the professional level, told me that I made more money doing HVAC than I ever did playing in the NFL. So when you think about that, and you think about the financial implication of that, only a certain number of folks on this planet have the talent to play at that level. And so what's the backup plan? What's the next plan? I think in education in general, and thinking about workforce, we need to be very aware that every path does not look the same. There's some folks who will leave, say, high school, and they're ready to go straight to work. I get that. There's also another group of students who, when they leave high school, they have ambitions to be in careers that, if they went down the 2-year track, they'll be just fine. And then there's others who go down a 4-year or professional track. I guess what I'm saying here is, as we think about training our workforce for tomorrow, we need to consider the individual, their aspirations. Frankie, you talked about, when we were young, I was considered one of the kids who was college material. That old thinking, he's college material. So I was immediately put on a college prep track at the time. Did a couple of AP classes and all those things. That's great. If you want to go to a 4-year research university, AP, a lot of those schools, they look at AP credit a little bit more heavily than some other ways. But, if that's not the path that you want to take, there's other opportunities like dual enrollment. So I can take a class while I'm anywhere from a sophomore to a senior in high school. I can take classes with GPTC, and maybe, I can explore that 2-year track. But again, it's about understanding what a person's natural giftings and aptitudes and their desires are, and helping them find their way. So a 4-year track, it isn't the best track for everyone. A 2-year track isn't the best for everyone. Going straight to work isn't the best track. We need to be very focused on the needs of the learner and try to point them in the right direction. I think so often folks lose sight of the 2-year track of technical education. And you think about the salaries in today's economy. If you want immediate return on investment, I can't think of a better way.
Well, I mean, you've said it, and you touched on a few points. If I'm young, I'm still young, by the way.
You look
all right, there we go. That's a good answer. But being a young person, and I'm graduating out of high school, I'm getting to a point where that I want to be more independent. I want a career. I know I can come to GPTC. I know I can come to Georgia Piedmont Technical College and get the training that I need. Now, here's a problem that I may run into. You may be able to help me with. Access, transportation. How do I get here? What can I do to gain access? Are there locations, Georgia Piedmont Technical College, do they have other locations outside of Clarkston, outside of in other areas of DeKalb County?
Absolutely. Frankie, it's like you're reading my mind.
Yeah, here we go. That's how we want it. All right, that's how we want it.
The one of the most powerful things for our citizenry is to give them access to opportunity. And so, Georgia Piedmont Technical College, we're an open access institution. So what that means is all is welcome. Some educated. All are welcome. All
right, here we go.
I need to be proper since we're speaking in public here. But we need to make sure that we're giving people access, not just from an open standpoint, but looking at where our students are coming from to access our campuses. So we have a campus here in Clarkston. We have a campus we're building a brand new, beautiful regional transportation center over in Margaret Road, and we can talk about that in just a moment. We also have a campus in Rockdale County. We have a campus over in Covington, Georgia. As a college, Georgia Piedmont Technical College, we serve 3 specific counties: DeKalb, Rockdale, and Newton County. So that's where we are. And the idea is we make our program fit the needs of the industries that are specific to those communities' needs, or whatever the employers need. That's where we are. So when we look at where our students are coming from, we've pulled heat maps and looked at the data, but our students, they live close to the college. So when you think about Clarkston, the majority of our students who access education on the Clarkston campus, they're coming from Clarkston in that area. But what happens up in, say, North DeKalb? So I can tell you, one of the things we've really been dreaming is, how do we get presence in North DeKalb? Because there's an entire population that wouldn't necessarily drive from North DeKalb to get here. In fact, one of the things that really gave us a shock when we looked at this is, let's say if you were in North DeKalb and you wanted to come to Clarkston and you want to navigate the MARTA bus line, take a guess how long it would take you after changing buses one way to get from, let's say, Doraville to Clarkston's campus. Take a guess.
15 minutes.
No. How about 2 hours? So think about, if you're trying to navigate the bus line and you want to be educated, let's say you don't have access to transportation. That was a part of your question. Are we expecting our citizens to come to us if they don't have transportation? One way, travel the bus line, 2 hours, one way to get here, sit in class for a few hours, travel 2 hours back. So think about the average age of our student population right now is around 27, 28-ish. And so what we see is our students are working. They're working. They may have children. They may be taking care of significant others. And so to expect 4 hours of my day to be lost traveling from the northern side of the county to Clarkston, that's a little bit unrealistic. And so we're really dreaming about how do we establish space and place for folks in that area. And we're working with a lot of our great legislators. I mentioned Senator Sally Harrell. We're talking with our county commission. But we want access in North DeKalb. We have access here in Clarkston. We're building a brand new, beautiful regional training center right off of Marbert Road. We have space. So when I look at the region, that's what I often look at. How do I get people from where they are and get them access? Again, it's all about access. We're open access that we welcome everyone, but we need to be geographically accessible as well.
Well, now that's really important. The salary sounds good, meaning that when I join or attend Georgia Piedmont Technical College, that I'm walking out with a nice, handsome salary. But getting here, like you said, 2 hours. If I'm on the other side of Atlanta, I'm in another part of the metro area, that's going to be a challenge. Because, I hear what you're saying. I want to be a part of it, but that is going to be a challenge. So it's nice to hear that the satellite campuses, if you will, that are spreading throughout this area to give people access so they can be educated. Now, that impacts our industries. That really does, because now you're making it available for families to gain access. Look at the transportation from work to, if they have to go to college, leaving work, going to GPTC. If your satellite locations are different parts of the county, wow, that cuts my time down. 45 minutes, I leave work. And what if I need daycare? Same thing. You're really giving me access. A lot of great positive. A lot of good things we're hearing.
Yeah, and I'll say for the employer, and if you think about those opportunities to partner with our private partners, it would make a lot more sense if the college is closer to where the work is happening. And so they're not losing a lot of time traveling. So because if they're in a paid apprenticeship, there's time that's being paid. There's wages associated with that. So having the opportunity to have education accessible close to where the work occurs, that's also very important.
All right, get your view on this. We've talked about a lot. We've talked about the impact of education at Georgia Piedmont Technical College. We talked about the benefits of a technical college education here. Salary, which is really big. We go to school. We go to school because we want a particular salary. Now we talk about these things, including transportation. What do you see the impact of this on the economy? How does that look to you?
The impact, state the question one more time.
How does this, when you talk about, you're putting all of this in one piece, give me your viewpoint on what this looks like. We're just DeKalb County, we'll focus on DeKalb County, the economy for DeKalb County.
As far as the impact on DeKalb County, again, thinking about this, I can't let go of this idea of access, giving access to people regardless of what you look like, what you believe, being very inclusive. And so, I believe the impact of that is if you give people access, you give the opportunity for people to thrive financially. There's also a confidence boost. I see it all the time. Students will walk through our doors and they will have been told maybe by someone that, oh, you're not college material. And they walk through our college's doors and they find success. And so I can think of students who come to Georgia Piedmont and, they may have not been as successful as they wanted, or they didn't have access or thought they could afford college. They walk in our doors, they complete a certificate or they complete a diploma and they're like, hey, I can do this. And so, in a lot of ways, we're lifting the heads of the people of the county through education. And so again, access, as we look at around the places where we are, I tell my team all the time that wherever we hang our logo, that's where we are. And so the impact of that, when you have students converging on a specific community, there's impact immediately around that area. The businesses prosper.
Exactly.
The community prospers. People spend money. They like to eat. They like to shop. They like to. So this is bigger than just education. We are a community partner. I want to make sure that is very clear. We just happen to be an educational partner, but we know that we bring value in that way. And so that impact, I believe, is immeasurable.
Now, interesting enough, you bring out a good point. Now, understanding that, I mean, you are a community partner. We at the Chamber, we appreciate the partnership that you bring. We appreciate the opportunity to collaborate. Collaboration is big for me. I know that we can be successful by collaborating. We cannot operate independently and have any success. So I'm bringing that to DeKalb County, part of my background and experience. Now, something happened in our society, or something happened 2 years ago that truly impacted not only DeKalb County, it impacted business, each industry. We saw the small business community really impacted by this pandemic, COVID-19. During that time period, or even after coming out of that, what did GPTC do? How were you able to help the industries, the small business community, DeKalb County as a whole, and the areas you serve? How are you able to keep us moving forward, understanding that a lot of people that had this virus, they were going to stay home. There was this hybrid deal that came out. No one really thought that we were going to have to work the way we do now with the virtual parts of how we do business. And there's a lot of success with that. But what did GPC do during that time period to prep for post-pandemic and going forward?
Well, I can tell you, we all learned a lot through the pandemic, and it was a very challenging time. But I do believe that when challenges arise, it's an opportunity for leadership to kind of show up. And I've seen that in our faculty and our staff. They have responded. They've been very flexible and nimble to meet the needs of our communities. The first thing we did, I would say, we kept the workforce safe. We took measures to make sure that our students were safe. I will say this. I think this is very important. We are technical education. Our bread and butter is occupational-based, hands-on instruction. So you don't want my nurses who are being our students who are being trained to be nurses watching a video, learning how to put in an IV. You don't want that.
No,
you don't want our truck drivers simulated driving through traffic in Atlanta. You don't want that.
I don't want that.
So and so we did have to continue a lot of our in-person learning. For instance, and this is powerful to me. This is the value of what we add. And again, I love to tell stories about our students. I remember at the beginning of COVID, and everything was locked down, and we were all trying to figure out how do we make these adjustments. But we also serve employees in that allied health field. So a lot of our students were on ride-alongs as paramedics with our partners in the healthcare industry. So they're out there and they're helping serve and care for these folks who are experiencing these symptoms and this mysterious thing called COVID at the time. So our students are getting real world experience and application. So we didn't stop. We took some safety precautions. We did that sort of thing. So, for that hands-on kind of learning, that continued in a way that was safe. I will also say that we learned that we had to, COVID really highlighted, I think, a lot of our vulnerabilities that we already kind of knew about before the pandemic. I heard a lot about supply chain issues and manufacturing issues. Those things, that wasn't new. That we were struggling with that before the pandemic, but the pandemic really heightened or exacerbated the importance of those things. And so, as a result, we had to keep teaching because employers were still hiring and still needed to produce and do those things that they like to do. So for our learners, we had to go online. We were doing online or distance education. We've been doing that for years. So that was actually one of the jobs I had Long time ago, 16, 17 years ago. So we've been doing this education. Well, thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. But we really had to start thinking about a hybrid model. What meets our students where we are or where they are. Right. So that's really important. I've also seen, and again, if you kind of were paying attention before pandemic, a lot of the things that I'm talking about, they were discussions. It just wasn't as at the forefront. For instance, I'm seeing a lot more emphasis on short-term modular training right now. So what I mean by that is, traditionally, the model or the model that is most people most familiar with is you graduate high school or you're an adult and you go and pursue your 4-year degree, and after 4 years you graduate and you go to work. Well, what I'm really seeing now is I hear from employers, they're like, we don't want to wait 4 years. They don't want to wait 2 years to get their workforce. We need them now. That is good. And so what we've learned to do as a technical education, I believe you can say this about all 22 of our colleges within the system. We're really looking at modularizing our teaching, breaking it down to small parts. So there's a small certificate that builds into these larger credentials. And that way, as the learner needs a skill, they can come to us, they can take courses or certifications, and they can go to work immediately. A lot of our employers, I've heard a lot about Google and some of the IT folks, they're not really requiring these degrees anymore. They need skills. And so looking at how education is becoming more modular and more just in time, it's becoming important. And then again, apprenticeship, that discussion is really ramped up because, again, I believe that the whole point of education, Frankie, and I haven't said this yet, and I think I have to say this, the core question that we're asking people from the time they start their educational experiences, what do you want to be when you grow up? And so helping people ask people that question, understanding why they want to be what they want to be when they grow up, that goes all the way. I know a lot of adults who are still asking themselves, like, what do I want to be when I grow up? So, I bring that back to the whole point of all of this is to prepare people for work. And that's at the core of our mission. And so the pandemic, when you think about the employers needing a workforce, students still needing to gain skills and blending an apprenticeship or work-based model together, I think that COVID really pushed us to kind of rethink the ways that we can make that even more efficient than even before the pandemic.
Yeah, I've been talking to some of our business owners that are members of the chamber, and they continue to expand on a point with hybrid employees or employees that they can have work at home. They've had a lot of success, and one in particular talked about the success they've had. A large part of their employee base, they are now virtual. And they have more production on the virtual end versus them traveling to work, being in the office. And so they let them stay virtual. And so it's a proven fact that, if you can get employees to really perform on the virtual level, it's even better for a company because now you're starting to look at, do they need to rent the space? Do they, if you don't have to do that, you can invest more in your employees. Now, I want you to keep your energy. Our simulated fireplace is still here. It's helping us out. So keep your energy going.
Feel the warmth.
Feel the warmth. It's amazing and what they can do to the mind. You just think, wow, I'm sweating a little bit. But I want you to keep your energy because I got a few more questions I want to ask you. And a lot of that is going to be based on GPTC and the framework and how it looks in DeKalb County, the economy, what we're doing with small businesses. So moving forward, thinking about that, a lot of our small businesses, entrepreneurs, they have really no interest in going to college. They want to keep their business afloat. They're trying to figure out how best they can do this. How can GPTC be at the forefront in assisting with that?
I'm starting to think this is a setup. Well, the college is really, we accomplish our mission through a few different ways. Okay. What most people are most familiar with is the academic credit part. That's when we talk about degrees and diplomas and certificates. We also offer GEDs at no cost to our students. And so that's another arm. And the third arm of the college is what we call economic development. And what that does, that gives us the opportunity to provide continued education. So for those small businesses, I know we partnered with the chamber to make sure that businesses had the support they needed at the beginning of the pandemic. How do I make that transition to a virtual environment? I know we've talked about small business seminars and those sorts of things. Those kind of activities happen through what we call economic development and continuing education. And so the college, again, we're here. I was once told that my job was to make sure that every help wanted sign in our 3-county area was not, it was that they would all down. So for me to think of that, we have to think differently about our workforce training. So it's not just the academic thing. It's not just a GED kind of thing. We do those things. That's what we do. We love those students. But we also have to think about, what about those who aren't going through those tracks, our small businesses, our partners? How do we provide learning experiences for folks who don't want to sit in a classroom all day? Right. So yeah, we respond to that community as well.
Perfect. So I'm going to take a shift on you.
Okay.
All right, we're going to start. I want to look at industry, be a little more industry focused. There's a big push in Georgia right now in looking at the electric vehicle industry. And there's a large demand for trained employees. We're going to see that start to increase more and more as we get in the next 10 years. What is your thought?
I think we need to get ahead of the curve. That's a short answer. We need to prepare, because as we can't get away from electric vehicle. I know there's a lot of conversation around what that looks like and the cost and the charging and all. I believe we're going to figure all of that out. And this is going to be a reality over the next few years. I know that several of the large automakers have said we're going to be all electric by X year. Right. So it's coming. And what that means is, I don't know when the last time it was that you had to have your car serviced, but it's usually not a cheap thing to do. And so, of course, we have an automotive program here at the college, and we are expanding into electric vehicle technology. So not only can we work on what's here now, gas-powered, fuel-powered vehicles, but we're also shifting to make sure that we can respond and train technicians who can also work on the electric vehicles. Of course, we're in conversations with our partners over in Rivian. There's a huge need for this type of skill. And so anytime there's a new or emerging technology, you don't want to be in a place where you're knee jerking. And at the end, in 3 years, we look back and say, we need all these people. And why didn't we know this? Well, we know now. So we see what's coming. It's been said, it's been touted from the White House. You've heard it from all the major manufacturers. There's a clarion call to take action now. And so as a college, we are positioning ourselves to make sure that we are training technicians to respond to EV and anything else that's out there. So we love, innovative technology. Our faculty love to get their hands on the state of the art, the newest thing. And we want to make sure that we resource them with those tools so that they can train their students. That's the thing about our faculty and staff. We don't hire folks who've just been career teachers. We hire technicians. So talking about automotive, we hire folks who've been working in the automotive industry, who've been in the shops, who've been mechanics, who've been the service managers. They come and teach for us because, again, we're occupational based. We want to make sure that what students learn is relevant for the job. And here's something else. I always forget to talk about this, but it's a very real thing, and it often shocks people. But let's say, Frankie, if we train you in our automotive program and you go to work and the employer says, hey, look, Frankie just can't get it together. I'm not sure if he gets it all. Did you know that employer can call the college back and say, there's a warranty on your education. You can send them back to GPT, send Frankie back to GPTC, and we'll train them at no cost. So when you think about the level and quality of training we have and our partnership with those industries, if we've trained a worker and they don't like the product, they can send the product back and we can make it right.
Now hold on. Now hold on.
Exactly.
I couldn't go to a graduate from say University of Georgia, Georgia Tech, and I'm not a good product. And Georgia Tech says, "Well, bring them back."
You're a great product.
Yeah, that works. Okay, that works. But I'm not a good product. But they can bring me back and say, "Hey, we'll train you at no cost."
Because workforce training is that important to us. And again, we exist to serve two very related populations. We serve the student and we serve the employer who hires them. And so that's who our commitment is to. So we want to make sure that Frankie gets everything he could possibly get out of his learning experience. Again, going back to that unforgettable learning experience, making sure Frankie gets everything he needs to be successful. And then it's also a demonstration of our commitment to the employer that, hey, look, and here's the other thing. Our employers sit on our advisory committees. So they're telling us, here's what you need to include in the curriculum. Here's the type of equipment you need to use. A lot of our employers, they'll donate equipment and they'll send their workers to share and teach in our programs. So this is a very interconnected ecosystem. It's not like GPTC is doing its own little thing out here, teaching whatever it wants. We're teaching exactly what the employers want. So if there's any breakdown, we see it with the employer and we say, okay, we'll make this right. We want this student to be successful. We want your businesses to be successful. So this is how we stand behind it. We have a guarantee or a warranty.
Wow. I mean, that speaks volumes about Georgia Piedmont Technical College, your staff, where you see things going, collaboration, connecting with employers, and being a part of your advisory committee. That means they're plugged in. They know what's going on. GPTC is plugged in. They know what's going on outside of GPTC. I mean, a lot of exciting things. I don't know if our audience, when you and I talk, the energy and excitement, you and I, when we have these discussions on the phone and in person, because you and I both, as visionaries, we can see what's going to happen, what's coming, what's happening for DeKalb County as a whole. Now, here's where I want you to go.
Okay.
Because I want the audience to feel some of that energy that you and I had when we had these discussions. Elaborate on some of the other great things that are going on with GPTC. I want our audience to hear it.
Okay, well, here's what we're seeing is, again, we've kind of laid out the case for why technical education is important. And what we're seeing is, like, I've been in this in technical education for 22 years now. And it's been a great ride, but I had never been a part of an economy like this one. A lot of it, of course, it's I think it's great leadership at all levels of government. I think it's engagement from all of our community partners like the chamber and our development authorities. I think a lot of it was, again, COVID kind of pushed us to do some things and think in ways that are different. But technical education and the type of skills that are required by our employers have really taken a very prominent front and center role. And so, again, I've alluded to some of this. We're seeing a lot of support coming from the community, whether that be financial, whether that be to help students to bolster student scholarships or to provide equipment. For example, the DeKalb County government, I mentioned our regional transportation center. The DeKalb County government sent the college $4 million to make sure that we have what it will become the largest and the only of its kind of logistics training center down in Stonecrest. Stonecrest is invested in that. The federal government has sent us $1 million for that project. The state of Georgia sent us $6 million. Amazon is sending money. And so, when you think about that, and that's one example. So we're seeing a lot of support for the college because we can only be as successful as our workforce. So frankly, as you talk to small businesses, as you talk to industries that want to do business in DeKalb County, one of the first things they're going to talk about is, can I get the people I need to do my work?
Exactly.
And if they can't find the workforce, the opportunities go to where the workforce is.
That's right.
That's one of the biggest things that drives economic development, is having a very trained workforce. And so we're also being more engaged than ever with our K-12 partners, because workforce isn't just a GPTC issue. It's not just a Chamber Development Authority issue. We need to look at how do we start reaching out to our students, our young learners in K-12. Again, that core question of, what do I want to be when I grow up? Right. So helping those students, whether they be in kindergarten or sixth grade, or if they're senior in high school, help them start moving along that track. Because if we can engage people early, they have a greater opportunity for success. And then finally, I'll say just collaborating with our business partners in an even more greater and powerful way. We love the chamber, the work that we do. I sit as a member of that board. Appreciate that.
Well, that's so appreciative because the chamber is moving. The trajectory for the chamber is really starting to explode, and I think that it's great that DeKalb County, our constituents, our business owners can see that. It builds confidence in them and builds the confidence to invest in their chamber. The chamber is set up for that purpose. And I want everyone to know that. And thinking of our chamber, most think Chamber of Commerce, I register my business, I get this nice plaque that we put on the wall, and that's it. That's not the 21st century chamber. That is not the DeKalb Chamber of Commerce now. We're looking beyond that. That's still a part of what we do. But what we're looking at is ways that we can advance small businesses. How can we help them? How we can help them be more resilient to future downturns in the economy, things that may happen like a pandemic. Now, with that understanding, we see the partnership, why it's critical that the chamber, Georgia Piedmont Technical College, the county, DeKalb County government, our local governments, even our development authority, why it's important that we continue to collaborate to build DeKalb County. I really, in the next 10 years, even probably before the next 5 years, I think individuals, matter of fact, I take that back. It's not a think. I know they will see changes in this county. So much so that it will begin to attract not only business, but it will attract residents to move to this county. I mean, this is really a nice opportunity. You and I, we sat and we said, we're going to do this fireside chat. We're going to talk about this because I wanted the audience to feel your energy. I wanted them to hear about what's going on there. Is anything you would like to leave us with? Any message about Georgia Piedmont Technical College that our audience can take back and say, hey, look, they're doing some great things there. What do I need to do?
Wow. Things that are most important is we talked a lot about access. So to the viewer, I encourage you to help people understand what it is that we've had this discussion about. Help people understand what opportunities are there. Specifically, we're talking about Georgia Piedmont Technical College. So encourage people to seek out these opportunities to grow and to learn and to go out and serve their communities. And also, I would say we love to be a part of community events. So if there's an opportunity or you say, wait, we can plug in and just support in general in DeKalb County, whether it's a Christmas parade or whether it's some kind of open house, whatever organization, we're open to that. Again, we're a community partner. We're a part of this community. We love this community. And so help us to help you, make our DeKalb County better.
Great. I think our residents and business partners will definitely, they're going to see that. As I mentioned, they'll see it within the next 5 years, or even as we go on beyond that, they'll start to see the change in DeKalb County. Got to say something to you also. That bow tie looks really good.
Thank you.
Now, we didn't call each other. This is kind of this thing that just happened. All right. That's what I thought. See, it looks good. Well, thanks for being a part of this fireside chat this morning, Dr. Holston. We truly appreciate the time that you've taken, your staff, to talk about GPTC, where it's going, and how we're plugged in. I think now as we move forward, we'll be able to continue. Well, we will continue to show DeKalb County in this region that we're a force to be reckoned with. So thank you. Appreciate your time. Look forward to more of the partnership. Right, so thank you, everyone, for being in attendance this afternoon, this fireside chat. This is our first one, but we truly enjoy this opportunity to sit with Dr. Holston and talk about some great things with GPTC. So we'll see you next time in 2023. Enjoy your time off with family, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you.